Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Investors Day. It's a pleasure to be with you once again. We are here live from the Taste Lab at Norte Shopping, our food hall that you're going to hear more about today. And we invited you to talk more about our long term strategy and our vision that we have in terms of the evolution of our industry and the evolution of the company. Also, for you to get to know our directors and officers, to give you a chance to interact with them, to talk about the evolution of our core business, our initiatives, our strategy related with capital allocation and M&A, and we're also going to go over ESG, culture, and people. This is the agenda for this morning. And in the end, we're going to open for questions. You can send your questions that we will answer them at the end of this session. So I'll start talking about some highlights of the company. brMalls is celebrating 15 years this year in 2021. It's a very important and special milestone for all of us because we see how much we have achieved in the past 15 years. And also when we look forward, we're also very excited about the prospects for the next 15 years. As a starting point, here's a screenshot of brMalls today. We have 31 shopping malls. We're present in all regions of the country. We have approximately 200 million visitors per year, a very expressive number of visitors. And just to give you some reference in terms of sales volume with the base from 2019, approximately 20 billion reals in sales every year in our shopping malls. It's a very expressive consumption potential, more than 500 billion reals per year in terms of consumption potential in the areas influenced by our shopping malls, and with a consumption profile also very interesting, predominantly socioeconomic classes A and B, and a very interesting social demographic profile of people here in Brazil. So one of the main messages that we always try to convey to you every time we meet is how we are seeing the company right now after COVID. We know we had some hard times, and these 2 years were 2 years of overcoming many limits. We are sorry for everyone who lost their loved ones, everyone who suffered with the pandemic, and we're very grateful to all of you and to the teams that were in the front line, the healthcare professionals, physicians, and also our team that was in the front line, the sellers, the store owners that were working during the pandemic. And as I said, during this time, many limits were overcome, and now we are in December 2021, so it's nearly 2 years of these very hard times, but we see a much brighter future ahead. First, because of the rate of vaccination in Brazil, we're reaching the end of the year. Of course, there are still some uncertainties about potential new variants, but only time will tell, right? But the fact is that the vaccination rate is very good in Brazil. And here specifically, we see a very high uptake on the part of the population. We have data from the city of São Paulo, for example, showing that from the adult population, more than 99% of the adults in São Paulo have received the 2 doses of the vaccination scheme. In the state of São Paulo, the rate is over 93% currently. Even for world class standards, this is a very high uptake rate. So we're pretty sure that vaccine coverage will be very good in Brazil, and this is very important for our business because this will give the authorities the confidence they need to keep businesses open. And this is what, in our case, allowed us for in the more recent quarters to have very expressive numbers in terms of sales, occupancy rate. We improved our default rates, NOI, and cash flow, and these are all consequences of the advancement of vaccination in Brazil and the increased trust of the population. Another interesting aspect about this moment that we're going through right now is that the foundations remain very solid. A lot of people would wonder, well, what will happen with shopping malls after COVID? But we were certain, and this has been confirmed, that shopping malls continue to be essential in the lives of Brazilians. The shopping malls have a role not just in terms of shopping, but also social life, entertainment, gastronomy, social gatherings. And what COVID taught us is that in the end of the day, the social aspect of human beings is essential. Here in Brazil, it's a place where families and the population feel at ease, they feel comfortable, they feel safe inside the shopping malls. It's like a mini city inside a larger city because we know that large cities have their complexities and disorganization problems, but the shopping mall fulfills this role, and this is even stronger after the pandemic. And from the standpoint of sellers, I think it was very clear to them that it's very important to have a digital strategy, but brick and mortar stores continue to be important. And they recognize the value of that, not just because that's where they have much of their sales, but also because of other attributes that we're going to talk about this morning. But as I said, the foundations remain very solid. We have a high demand from consumers and from sellers. And on our side, we are a company that also remain very solid. We could help our longtime partners in the most critical times of the pandemic. And now we are seeing a very good recovery with high occupancy rates, with high traffic in our shopping malls. So this is a very interesting moment that we're going through, and we have some very positive prospects for the coming months. What we also see is that brMalls, shopping malls, are gaining more and more local share. And this is a very interesting part because certainly e-commerce has accelerated during the pandemic. We saw the retailers gaining online presence. That's why the share of e-commerce went from 5 to 10%. At the same time, we have to realize that about 90% of retail sales are still physical sales, local sales. And that's the main territory where we navigate. Within those 90%, we have a already relevant share, but it's still a small share. What happened during COVID and that we see accelerating in the coming years is that we're going to capture more and more share within the pool of the 90%. And how are we going to do this? By bringing street stores into the shopping malls, by gaining consumption share of consumers that used to go elsewhere and now are coming to be our mall shopping malls. Also, bringing stores or brands that were present in competitor shopping malls and concentrating them in BR malls, shopping malls. So, yes, we have to fit our business model into this entire thesis of digitization and e-commerce and digital presence. But I have to reinforce the importance of us being very strong locally and capturing the local market share. This is very clear to us now, has been very clear for these past years, and we think that this will continue to happen in the next years, also due to this acceleration of different post COVID trends. This morning, you're also going to hear a lot about an important topic, which is the evolution of our business model. On one hand, we will continue to have a very attractive mix in our shopping malls with very relevant anchor stores. Also, food services have become a very nice destination, as you could see. We did some important renovation projects. So the consumption experience and the reasons why consumers come to our shopping malls will continue to be strong. At the same time, we are seeing a greater and greater opportunity to also evolve the business model of the company. So we plan to maintain everything that we do well, our core business, which will continue to evolve over time. And on top of that, we are also considering new tiers of solutions that will make our core business even more attractive because it will gain new relevance both to sellers and buyers and also advertisers. So we see that on one side, consumers, well, in the past, we used to have a very linear consumption process. The consumer would go to the store was present in the shopping mall. And now we have different forms of consumption. And sometimes stores can even go to the consumers. So we are looking at all the ways in which we can adapt our shopping malls so that they are well positioned in terms of click and collect, ship from store. This continues to be a very important part of the business. But another thing that we're seeing in terms of changes and evolution of consumption habits is that if on one hand there's a very strong trend towards digitization of the brands and brands looking for consumers in the digital environment, The CAC, the customer acquisition cost of digital sales, has grown greatly in the past few years, nearly 50% in the past 2 years, which makes this purely digital strategy unfeasible for brands. Brands can no longer connect only by depending on Facebook and Google. They need to have other CAC channels and other consumer interaction channels. And within the strategy that we are developing, there's a very interesting solution that you're going to hear about this morning, which is both for engagement and granular understanding of our consumers. And here we're talking of knowing consumers at the taxpayer ID level to have this one on one relationship and also new forms of monetizing that, which has everything to do with that thesis of how we're going to explore this in a way that is very good for consumers and also very good for brands, which can really create a win-win situation and generate new revenues for the company. One thing that's very clear and that we believe will be a very expressive growth avenue for the company is media. Today, media accounts for about 4% of our revenue, but in the next few years, this could reach nearly 20%. On one side, we're going to have a greater and greater focus on B2C, but also a great focus on connecting the brands, connecting sellers, and connecting advertisers to this consumer base that already frequents our malls and of whom we're going to have a deeper and deeper knowledge with all this data. The combination of all that, of a very interesting core business with granular data from consumers and complete understanding of the consumer journey, increases the attractiveness of our shopping malls even further with our sellers because they see a more complete value proposition. And we can also attract new types of revenues, customers, advertisers, or other types of brand that want to interact and connect with this consumer base. These consumers that are in a base, as I said before, that has a huge consumption potential, and uh, we are present in all segments, social demographically speaking. And that takes us to the next few years. So, how do we see the evolution of the company, the evolution of the company's businesses? I think the combination of this portfolio of 31 shopping malls, this very strong portfolio, and it's worth noting that in the past few years, we've been strengthening our portfolio with 4 acquisitions and also 15 shopping malls that were sold because we understood they were not the ideal profile of shopping mall for the long term. So we have a very well sculpted portfolio of shopping malls for the future. Our core business is getting stronger and stronger in terms of consumer preference, and we are also working on new solutions. So this brings us to the central topic of this conversation, which is growth. We see growth as one of the main vectors for value creation for the company in the next few years. And here we can divide this into major blocks. The first block is organic growth. I think this is the perfect moment for that. We have been, as I said, reinforcing our portfolio of shopping malls. We currently have a very good occupancy rate. The leases are coming back, the sales are coming back, common areas, kiosks, parking spaces, and this will allow for a very good recovery of our organic growth looking forward. The second block is new revenues, emerging revenues that are growing at a very fast speed. This morning, we're going to hear a lot about B2C and this deeper and granular knowledge of our consumers, and also which new revenues we think it will be possible to explore. Something that you'll hear in depth today is about media. Media will certainly help us. This combination of B2C and media will certainly create a growth avenue for the company looking forward and will allow us to reach very interesting penetration levels in terms of revenue. And the third block is M&A that you'll hear from our finance director. The DNA of brMalls has also have a very strong growth vector, so we will always see M&As as an option in terms of value creation to our shareholders. This morning, we will also talk about people, culture, and ESG. These are important topics for any company, but we think that right now, considering the times we're going through, these topics are even more important. Our mission as a company, we always say that it is on one side to perform and also to transform. So to perform and to transform. And what do we mean by that? brMalls has also had a very strong culture of execution, short-term performance, and results. And this is something that we will maintain. This is a quality that we will maintain looking forward. But also, with everything that's taking place in the market in terms of challenges and opportunities, we also see the need to evolve our business, to transform our business, to seek more innovation, incorporate more innovation, new theses, to test and experiment, and then scale up. This will certainly help us create value consistently and increase our value proposition to our customers and to our consumers indefinitely looking forward. So, to perform and to transform is our goal in terms of people and culture. And that's what we're going to discuss this morning. On the people side, you already know brMalls team. We have a very young team, full of energy, with a very open mind that has the willingness to execute. They work very independently. They are very empowered. And this is certainly a very important attribute for the times we're going through. And we're also going to talk about some cultural aspects. How we, on one side, have a culture that fosters this duality, the short-term performance and also the long-term transformation, and how we adjust our values, our incentives, and our ways of working to fit this duality. This is something that we have already been seeing, particularly in the past 3 years, and we are very excited internally with all the progress that we are seeing in terms of our culture, our people, our values, behaviors. And this is also something that we're going to touch on this morning. And another thing that is important as an enabler for this strategy is ESG, environmental, social, and government. ESG is becoming more and more important for all our stakeholders. And in the case of brMalls, you're also going to see that we chose corporate governance as a theme to develop ourselves and to reach excellence. And we also have reached excellence in social. And this ESG is certainly something that will be very relevant for the company in the next few years. Now I'm going to hand it over to Vicente, our operations director. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rui. Good morning, everyone. My name is José Vicente Avelar. I'm the operations director of the company, and I'm going to talk about how we can potentiate our core business. So let me start by showing you a short video that talks about all the initiatives that we are developing right now in the company.
Evoluindo e acompanhando as tendências das pessoas e do mundo, a brMalls segue performando e transformando os shoppings para o futuro. Estamos presentes em todas as regiões do Brasil, promovendo encontros, impulsionando marcas e criando experiências únicas às milhões de pessoas que visitam os shoppings administrados pela brMalls todos os meses. Com respeito e proximidade com nossos consumidores e parceiros, modernizamos nossas unidades para trazer mais qualidade de vida, de entretenimento e de serviços a todos, gerando novas e surpreendentes oportunidades. Como resultado de investimentos em modernização, o Norte Shopping, no Rio de Janeiro, inaugurou o Taste Lab, nosso food hall que conta com a presença de chefs renomados democratizando a gastronomia. Entregamos também novos espaços voltados para o público infantil e, conectados com as necessidades do consumidor de hoje, estamos avançando com as obras do pátio. Já o Plaza Niterói segue avançando com as obras. Quem frequenta o shopping já pode desfrutar de ambientes mais agradáveis, acolhedores e funcionais. O Shopping Tijuca contou com um projeto completo de remodelação, com espaços que unem aconchego e facilidade para o cliente. E segue a todo vapor com as obras do painel Muda, trazendo arte e cultura para dentro do shopping. Em Uberlândia, além de novos espaços que acolhem toda a família, proporcionamos mais conforto na circulação. No shopping Vila Lobos, o cliente já consegue ver que está acontecendo uma reforma completa. Os ambientes já estão ficando de cara nova, mais agradáveis e de acordo com a necessidade dos nossos consumidores. E logo é a vez do Jardim Sul, em São Paulo, estar com a fachada nova e totalmente revitalizada. Seguimos investindo também no conceito multiuso, transformando o shopping em um centro completo de lazer e serviços, tudo em um lugar só. Dá uma olhada. Iniciamos o desenvolvimento dos nossos Master Plans, visando adensar os shoppings com novas torres de hotéis, residenciais, comerciais e centros médicos. No Tamboré, além das torres existentes, teremos mais 2 torres de hotéis e uma comercial, se tornando o maior complexo multiuso da região. E em Londrina, são 4 torres residenciais, 4 comerciais e um centro médico, tudo para transformar nossos complexos na cidade do futuro. Em Campo Grande, a primeira torre do The Place já foi inaugurada, oferecendo uma grande variedade de serviços e mais comodidade para o cliente. E a segunda torre está a caminho. Em Maringá, foi inaugurado um hotel transformando o shopping em um destination além do varejo. Falando agora de novos produtos, o nosso Taste Lab, inspirado nas tendências mundiais, democratiza a alta gastronomia, unindo arte, cultura e lazer. Depois das inaugurações no Cuiabá e Norte Shopping, ele segue a todo vapor com as obras do Tamboré e do Tijuca, e logo será a vez do Plaza Niterói. Em novos produtos, temos também a Trama Lab, que surgiu com o objetivo de criar um espaço colaborativo unindo selos de moda e lifestyle nativas digitais. Inovamos o mix do Shopping Vila Lobos, com mais de 30 marcas originais e criativas, de diversos segmentos, gerando ao cliente uma experiência única. Um novo formato de loja para conexões, um laboratório de marcas. E esse ano teve a criação do nosso mais novo produto, X-Dome, criado para trazer o mercado gamer para dentro do shopping. Em expansão e redevelopment, estão em andamento as obras do pátio do Norte Shopping, que vai se conectar com o Taste Lab, o redevelopment do Shopping Tamboré, o rooftop do Shopping Tijuca, e logo iniciaremos também as obras de expansão do Plaza Niterói. Esse é o jeito brMalls de investir no futuro sustentável dos nossos negócios e dos nossos parceiros e proporcionar momentos cada vez mais inesquecíveis para nossos consumidores. Porque é evoluindo e transformando que acompanhamos as tendências do mundo e geramos oportunidades para todos. brMalls, performando e transformando os shoppings para o futuro.
As you heard from us in other occasions, our portfolio has been uh, becoming stronger and stronger over the years, and we are now concentrating this portfolio in assets that are dominant in their areas. Today, we still see a very relevant opportunity for growing these assets. And this growth will come both from the increase in market share in their respective areas, but also in the building efficiency and a better distribution of the building space. This will open space for us to increase our revenue from rentals. And this is something that we saw this year and will continue to see in the next years as we can maintain the efficiency of our buildings and pass on significant increases in rentals considering our entire portfolio. Here we have some points that represent very well what I just said. The first example is Center Shopping Uberlândia. It's a shopping mall that we acquired in 2011, and since then it has been growing at a 2-digit rate, and also in terms of occupation and in terms of sales per square meter. And this is taking place whereas we are bringing more and more national brands expanding and better qualifying the store mix, and also focusing on specific segments such as food services. So, everything related with gastronomy and food services, we see a lot of evolution recently, and this is transforming shopping malls into a hub of gastronomy, entertainment, and services in the regions where they're located. Another interesting case is Catuai Londrina, a shopping mall that has been growing and gaining market share in recent years. It is totally dominant in its region with expressive growth both in terms of sales per square meter and also NOI per square meter, and also a strong reinforcement of the mix of national brands and also the food services mix, which makes it a very important hub and the most important shopping mall of the western part of Paraná. This mixed evolution work has been taking place for a few years now. As you can see here, we had a more than 50% increase in the food services area in our shopping malls in the past 5 years. So, this is a very strategic segment for the company. And also, we have other brands and other important partners that have joined us in this transformation of the mix in our shopping malls. Here we have some relevant examples. And because of our large scale, we also have a very expressive business volume. We can see there we have practically 4,000 contracts that have been signed during this period in more than 400,000 square meters of leased areas and 2.4 billion reals in potential revenue. More than 70% of the leasable area of the company is already served by corporate level customer service. This is something we have been investing in, and we see this as a very important differentiator because this allows us to solve operational issues and also to work closely with sellers when it's the time to expand. So we created a special area called expanding businesses. And this team is responsible for closely following up with sellers that are at a more aggressive expansion period in their trajectory so that we can make the most of this expansion. We are also reinforcing our key account area, and we can provide the main sellers of the company with 360-degree customer service. And in last year alone, this adds up to 45,000 square meters of leasable area that were sold. Now, as for value creation, as you could hear during the video, we have been working in different fronts in terms of modernization, redevelopment, expansion, and also multi-purpose. We understand that these are very important strategies that complement each other and help us strengthen our assets. We are also going to quickly go over a success case, which is Catuai Londrina. And in this case, we explore how we are transforming this shopping mall and the central location of this shopping mall, that special part of the city, into something more and more relevant for consumers.
Esse é o Shopping Catuai Londrina. Para expandir o shopping, estudamos o terreno inteiro pensando na cidade do futuro. Um lugar onde você pode encontrar de tudo: compras, serviços, espaço gourmet, lavanderia, salão de beleza, consultórios médicos e até espaço para trabalhar. Identificando o potencial do complexo e seus possíveis usos, expansão de varejo, residencial, comercial, centro médico e hotel, desenhamos a cidade do futuro. E buscamos os principais players para pensar em conjunto com a gente nessa cidade. Para entender melhor a necessidade dos novos consumidores, é feita uma pesquisa de mercado. E com base nela, contratamos um escritório de arquitetura renomado para desenhar um projeto incrível. O arquiteto desenha a expansão, pensando na melhor experiência do cliente e no melhor aproveitamento do terreno. No Londrina, para a primeira fase de expansão, privilegiamos a gastronomia, fazendo um novo boulevard com restaurantes e o nosso food hall, o Taste Lab, trazendo uma maior variedade de opções para os nossos clientes. Na segunda fase, teremos 4 torres residenciais, trazendo o público que sempre sonhou em ter o shopping como área de lazer. Para a terceira fase, teremos um centro médico, onde os clientes poderão realizar suas consultas, fortalecendo o pilar de conveniência do complexo. Na quarta fase, conectada ao shopping existente, teremos mais uma expansão de lojas incríveis. E na última fase, teremos a incorporação de 4 torres comerciais, ampliando o público corporativo do shopping. Tudo isso para transformar nos próximos anos os nossos shoppings em cidades do futuro.
And finally, as we could hear in the first video, we have a series of new products that we have been developing in recent years, and we understand that these proprietary products create very important differentiation in terms of consumer preference. These products are already available in many of our shopping malls. So since 2018, we have the Taste Lab in Cuiabá and also in Norte Shopping, where we're at today. We have Drama Lab in Shopping Villa Lobos in São Paulo. And now we are expecting to inaugurate the first unit of the X Dome, for which we have very high expectations. We know that the gamers market is a very expressive market that has been growing a lot. We understand that this is an entertainment area where we need to be present. So our bet on the X Dome will start in the beginning of 2022, starting with Shopping Metro Santa Cruz in São Paulo. And with the lessons learned, we will certainly be expanding this to other shopping malls in our portfolio. We are also expecting to inaugurate the Taste Lab in Tamboré, Tijuca, and Plaza Niterói in the next few years. And now I'm going to hand it over to Leo, and he's going to talk more about our digital products and our relationship strategy for consumers. Thank you, Vicente. Good morning. My name is Leo Ferreira. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of brMalls, so I'm responsible for technology, new businesses, and corporate strategy. And today I'm going to talk to you about what we are creating here. So in addition to running the technology area, we're also creating these new fronts and new possibilities for our advertisers and sellers. And this will certainly have a reflection on consumers, even creating new channels for us to relate with consumers in order to boost the company's revenues. We are creating this platform with 2 main objectives. One, to increase the market share of our shopping malls, bringing more value into the ecosystem to the consumer and to the advertiser. Increase the share of wallet of consumers, so the more consumers come back to our malls and the stronger their relationship with us, this will increase their share of wallet and the spend inside our assets. And of course, for this, I need to have granular data about our consumers. So these are our 3 main goals. And I'm going to explain to you how we're going to do this. What are the pillars that we established here in the company in order to deliver this platform business that will create more value to advertisers, sellers, and buyers? So we have a very important pillar, which is data capture through our relationship program and other tools such as mall analytics, and I'm going to talk more about that later. We also have the omni-channel pillar, which is basically having one digital sales channel that consists of not only the app, but also the shopping wizard or the third-party marketplace. So how can we help sellers make that sale that wouldn't take place inside the shopping mall, a sale that would take place at the consumer's house or somewhere else? So how can we increase the multi-channel strategy for brick and mortar stores? We know that online and offline, when combined and integrated, are much more powerful. And also working on delivery channels. We need to be efficient in the last mile and in the delivery to consumers. And this is something that we have reinforced in the past 2 years. For example, we strengthened our strategy with the lockers and drive-through, which we today have in most of our shopping malls. The third pillar, which is very important, it's a profitability pillar and a monetization pillar for both sellers and also for us. Vicente is going to talk more about how we are expanding the media area in the company and how this is becoming more and more relevant to the company. And here, this also comprises everything related with digital media, so a digital media platform for sellers and how we're selling this to sellers and advertisers, and also new products and services also related with media that we're offering to sellers and advertisers that have an impact on consumers and that help us drive consumer preference into our shopping malls or to the brands of our advertisers. So this is also another very important pillar for the new business strategy of the company. And finally, I'm going to talk about the new revenue streams that we are seeking in the B2C channel. Shopping malls have typically always been a B business, and now, since our loyalty program is growing at a fast speed, we want to create growth avenues in terms of B2C relationship as well. And in order to do all this and in order to create this platform and this ecosystem, it's very important to go through these three steps. First, we need to attract consumers. We need to attract as many consumers as we can. And then we need to engage these consumers and make them use our digital products and establish a relationship with them. And then the third step is to monetize this relationship in different ways that I'm going to explain to you shortly. So how do we do this? How do we attract consumers? How do we attract and get to know these consumers? We created a relationship program which is already active in the Rio São Paulo axis of the company. So consumers will take a photo of the invoice or of the receipt of something they purchase at our shopping malls. And this is a feature that we are developing. This information is sent straight to our sellers. This is already active in many stores, and we are going to expand this automation. But while it's not automated, consumers will take a photo of the receipt. So all the sales will be captured by our data lake in our database with all the information there: name, taxpayer ID, date and time of the purchase, what are the SKUs, the products that are in that receipt. And this will create some business outputs for us. For example, consumer behavior, their recurrence, and how much they come to the shopping mall, their purchase frequency, their average ticket. And this all will create a very rich database that we can use for different purposes in the company. We can use that data to improve our program, to grow B2B and B2C revenues, and also to improve the shopping mall store mix and to really favor the company. So this explains the drive of our relationship program and data capture. This will greatly improve the lives of sellers and also buyers, because buyers will start to learn about stores and products and services and food services inside the shopping malls that maybe they didn't know about. So this journey that we're mapping today in shopping malls is good for both consumers and sellers, creating value to the platform. And what is the stage of evolution right now this year? So last year, we launched these products in the middle of the year, some of the products. Then we expanded to 8 shopping malls, and then we started the journey of our relationship program to try to capture data about what's happening inside our shopping malls. It's important to mention that this is the attraction part. We are attracting consumers, but we also have to engage consumers. And I'm going to talk about engaging later on. But in terms of the capture or attraction of consumers. You can see that our numbers, the GMV as we call it, has been growing. The GMV is the number of sales that take place inside the shopping malls. So you see that in the third quarter we were at 300 million, and today we are at 500 million, a little over 500 million. And we expect to close this year at about 600 million. And these are sales that are recognized inside our malls. So when you look at this slide, you see 237 consumers that are engaged with the app. And today we are at 400,000. So these are the numbers of the last quarter. So the evolution is very fast, and we can already see a high rate of penetration in terms of sales. So let me show you this chart here. You see here we have 17%. This means that 1 of every 5 purchases inside our shopping malls we are already recognizing and capturing at the level of the SKU, date and time of the purchase, the buyer, and where else this person made purchases. So we have this very granular data about our consumers that is enriching our database. We expect by the end of this year, we expect to be recognizing more than 1 of every 4 purchases in our shopping malls inside the 8 shopping malls where we already have our relationship program active. So I talked a little bit about how we are attracting consumers. So now I'm going to talk about how we are engaging these consumers. This chart is a very important. I really like this chart because in the Father's Day promotion, considering our relationship program can engage even more than during Christmas time. So in this last Father's Day, for these 3 shopping malls that are contemplated here, with a much lower cost of promotion, we were able to engage a much greater level of consumers into our promotions. So this is in this GMV percentage that you see here. And we know that Father's Day is not as important as Christmas in the retail calendar. Compared to Christmas, it's not as important, but we were able to engage even more consumers with a very low or much lower cost of service to the company. And this is clear evidence of the evolution and the engagement of these consumers in our relationship program. So in the past 4 months, we launched a new app. And there's a very important part of our relationship program inside that app, the loyalty program. We have a specific area in the app for that. And there you can do a number of things. We have free gifts, we have free parking, we have raffles, we have different services, and also online shopping. I'm going to show you the numbers shortly, but you can buy on WhatsApp from any store in the mall, or for some stores in our malls, you can buy from the digital stores that are already integrated into our app. And this is something that is growing over time. And we believe that this will be important looking forward for the organic growth of shopping mall sales. Because you know that a lot of sales today do not take place inside the shopping mall because consumers prefer, this was very accelerated by the pandemic, but consumers are preferring to buy from their house. So this gives us the possibility to bring many brands to these e-shopping or mini marketplaces in order to increase the market share of our shopping malls. So what is our relationship program delivering? As I said, we have free gifts, we have discounts, we have free parking, and this comes from this ecosystem that involves advertisers, sellers, and the shopping malls themselves. So, and this animation that takes place inside the mall for our loyalty program is very important because this is what makes consumers engage with our program and use our app. And consequently, this will also allow our sales channels to grow significantly, as you're going to see on my next chart. I can't really separate in the consumer life, you can't really separate what the loyalty program is and online shopping and the shopping wizard. This is all part of this big ecosystem that now relates with the shopping malls based on this digital product that we launched. And the consequence of all this is that we are seeing very expressive growth, both in terms of sales from sellers to buyers using our digital channels. And this is certainly boosted by the expansion in the SKUs that are registered in the app by sellers, and also the engagement of our sellers with our shopping wizard, which allows us to improve the value in this relationship that we have between buyers and the shopping malls, which is a very strong relationship. And it is strong, and these things have to work together because it's very important that the shopping mall is dominant, that the shopping mall can receive consumers, and the digital strategy goes along with that. We don't believe here in brMalls that these are separate strategies. No, they are inseparable. They have to work together because one thing it fuels the other. You see that the increase in online sales will generate percentual lease value for the company. So we can't really separate these things, and we don't believe in separating. We don't think the world needs yet another marketplace. But what we are offering is, well, a shopping mall with which you have an emotional connection. So this has a lot of value, and this is what the numbers are showing. So I talked a little bit about how we are attracting consumers, how we are engaging consumers, and also we have to monetize. And in monetize, this has to do not only with the extra additional lease revenue that these sales will bring, because we'll have these incremental sales that will, or purchases that will be made by consumers that are not inside the shopping malls, but we also have the digital media strategy, and you're going to hear more about that shortly. But we also have other lines of business, other lines of revenue that through the data that we're capturing from the user, 250,000 and growing. So based on the data from these consumers, we will be able to generate new businesses for the company, and not just through our relationship program, but also through other avenues that we are already putting into practice in order to extract more value from this relationship that we have between consumers and shopping malls that we didn't used to explore in the past, and now we are exploring. And of course, in order to deliver all this strategy that I just described to you, both in terms of evolving our business model, also launching new digital products, we had to hire a team specifically dedicated to that. So today we have more than 45 people working together in a squad format, and within these squads we have IT people, we have design people, we have scrum masters, we have marketing people, sales people, and operations people. They're all helping us establish this link with the shopping mall, because as I said, it wouldn't work if it were done only digitally. There has to be a link with the shopping mall and this constant animation, so that the shopping mall is constantly involved in this ecosystem and in the day-to-day and the daily actions that take place inside that platform. For example, inside the mall, we have a multi-channel team that works exclusively with digital products. And this is how we can deliver. There's no other way of doing that. The only way is working collaboratively with different areas, with a strong team, both in terms of IT and also marketing and operations. So before I hand it over to Vicente to talk about media, I'm going to show you a short video that summarizes the strategy that I just explained to you.
A brMalls transformou e profissionalizou o segmento de shopping ao trazer, desde sua fundação, inúmeras ações. Focados em crescimento e resultado, nos tornamos referência em shopping e seguimos trabalhando para nos manter no topo. Investindo nos ativos, desenvolvemos nosso time, melhoramos processos, ganhamos escala e eficiência, expandimos nossos shoppings e conseguimos conquistar um portfólio forte, atraindo centenas de milhões de visitantes por ano. Hoje, nossos shoppings são líderes dominantes nas regiões onde estão presentes e, nos últimos anos, se tornaram ainda mais desejados e relevantes. Através de várias inovações, como novas âncoras, Mais gastronomia, novas experiências e novos usos, consolidamos o B2B numa constante evolução do modelo de negócios da companhia. Um outro exemplo de evolução do modelo de negócio é a brMalls, uma operação própria de comercialização de mídia para o mercado de shopping, que alavanca não apenas nossos lojistas, mas também expande a nossa atuação junto ao mercado de anunciantes para todo o país. Atingimos mais de 70 shoppings no portfólio de comercialização, gerando uma nova linha de receita relevante para a companhia. Sabendo que a escala é muito importante em qualquer negócio de mídia, ampliamos ainda mais nossa atuação nessa avenida de crescimento com a aquisição da Hello, empresa especializada em comercialização de mídia out of home que atua em condomínios residenciais, com tecnologia proprietária em mais de 20 cidades. Mas performar e transformar está no nosso DNA. Esse é o motor da nossa estratégia de crescimento e o que vai nos levar a mudar o segmento de shoppings mais uma vez. Hoje, nossos shoppings são um centro de experiência e entretenimento para os consumidores e um polo de geração de valor para nossos lojistas e anunciantes. E é através dessa plataforma poderosa que iremos crescer. Assim como criamos novas formas de receita no B2B, também iniciamos nossa jornada de geração de valor através de negócios direto para o consumidor. Para construir essa nova avenida de crescimento, desenvolvemos algumas ferramentas de conhecimento da jornada do consumidor, incluindo um programa de relacionamento, que já apresenta força e tração, e nos possibilita conhecer de forma granular nossos consumidores e suas compras, e a partir disso, desenvolver novos produtos e serviços personalizados, que geram valor para a companhia, para os lojistas e para os anunciantes. Com os objetivos de aumentar as receitas dos nossos shoppings, o LTV e o Share of Wallet de nossos consumidores, criamos uma plataforma robusta de vendas que permite aos clientes comprarem de qualquer lugar em que estejam. Esses são os nossos e-shoppings, que proporcionam uma experiência que vai além da compra e venda, dando a possibilidade de entrega rápida dos produtos com um custo de servir baixo para os lojistas e um alto nível de serviço para os consumidores. Ou seja, conhecendo profundamente nossos consumidores por meio de suas visitas e transações dentro e fora dos nossos shoppings, conseguimos personalizar as interações, transformando cada contato em uma experiência memorável, gerando mais vendas para nossos lojistas e anunciantes e mais receitas para a brMalls. Isso, por sua vez, nos dá mais informações sobre os consumidores, realimentando todo esse ecossistema. Tudo isso convergindo para um shopping cada vez mais preparado para atrair, encantar, fidelizar e gerar recorrência nos consumidores. Assim, as estratégias de ir direto ao consumidor e de continuar sendo referência em shopping no país andam juntas e são inseparáveis. E é exatamente por isso que estamos continuamente modernizando nossos shoppings e tornando suas áreas mais atrativas e rentáveis, fortalecendo o nosso mix de lojas, marcas e serviços a fim de atender os clientes em suas necessidades e ampliando e diversificando as ofertas de entretenimento, criando experiências inesquecíveis em nossos shoppings. A combinação dos negócios B2B e B2C reforça a dominância e importância dos nossos shoppings e nos permitirá expandir nosso raio de atuação no entorno, gerando mais valor para o ecossistema. Isso nos trará maior capacidade de adquirir novos ativos através de M&A e aplicar essa combinação de produtos e serviços para nossos lojistas, anunciantes e consumidores. Por isso, onde houver poder de consumo que nos permita implementar essa estratégia, é lá que nós estaremos. E é assim, performando e transformando, que vamos continuar a ser referência em shopping no Brasil. Este é o nosso DNA. Esta é a brMalls.
Now, speaking of media, as Leo said, this is a business line for which we expect a lot of growth in the next years. Very recently, we acquired Hello, a platform that includes screens in elevators, and this allows us to communicate with customers around the shopping mall and to create products for each advertiser which will allow us to grow even further. Media is a business line that we have been investing for a long time now. In 2013, we created the media department and we created media malls. We started to sell media products for third parties. We now operate in 71 shopping malls in Brazil, and more recently we acquired Hello. And in 2022, we are expecting a substantial expansion in this type of media in shopping malls and residential buildings. Next year, we should continue to grow. That's our expectation. Media malls should be present in 100 shopping malls in major cities in Brazil. And Hello is also expected to grow about 4 times in terms of the number of screens and residential buildings served by our inventory. As we said before, our expectation is that media products should account for 20% of our revenue in the next few years, and this is the direction we are heading to. We base our strategy on 3 pillars. Intelligence. We want to change the focus, the commercial focus from the screens to the audience. We want to understand consumers, how they behave, where they are, so that we can get more value from this media that we offer to advertisers. Then we are going also to focus on digital products. Part of our digital strategy has to do with monetizing channels through media, which makes our advertisers and store owners to sell more, and also sales channels. We want to have our own marketplace for us to sell our inventory, and also other media that we want to integrate in our inventory in the next few months. I'll tell you about some important cases that will illustrate how we have been able to grow and sophisticate the business within the company. In 2019, there were 6 malls in São Paulo, which reached approximately 10% of the city's population. This is our own malls. Now we have 19 shopping malls that reach approximately 40% of the city's population. So this increases our ability to approach large advertisers and create specific projects. Almost 20% of the revenue approved for this year involves more than 3 shopping malls. That is, we are able to sell more assets of our media inventory to the same advertisers, and we managed to grow the number of advertisers by 60%. The case of Bob's, a burger place, is a very interesting case. From the beginning of the customer journey to the sale of the product, we were able to create ways to activate the customer and to drive the business with a very expressive result. We started with awareness, with push messages through SMS and our digital products to create awareness in customers for them to start the journey. Then activation within the shopping mall, on screens, on totems. And then, of course, we created a way to convert the sales when customers were in the store. And we also developed a specific experience. We had a settee from the series Friends that allowed consumers to take pictures, to engage, and to post pictures on social media. So this created a lot of buzz for this initiative. As a result, sales increased 53% during the campaign period. Very, very expressive result. And mind you, the journey was designed specifically for that client. In the case of CNA, it involved the screens of Hello. So the journey started with an advertisement on the screens in the elevators, then messages on the mobile phone through the shopping mall app, and then within the mall we used our digital inventory, screens, either the ones on the floor or the mega banners, and we also had an advertisement in the Wi-Fi connection within the mall. And the increase in sales was 14% relative to the comparable base. Again, this reinforces the importance of media in our strategy and the importance of media to drive sales and revenue for stores and for the company alike. So this all attests to the importance of this initiative within the company and the importance of Hello as well. I'll turn the floor over now to Bianca, who's going to talk about our company's culture and people. Thank you very much, Vicente. I'm Bianca Bastos. I'm responsible for people and people management at brMalls. We have a strategy to deliver, and for us to develop a culture and have the people to deliver on the strategy, we have some initiatives. First of all, one of our pillars is to have a culture which is strong, agile, and versatile. For us to deliver everything that we need to for our performance today and into the future, we need a culture that allows us to perform and transform at the same time. This is what we are talking about, and this is what we look for. And for this to happen, we think about our values: customer, results today and tomorrow, ownership, excellent team, and cooperation. With the right team and with the implementation of the values, we will be able to deliver on our targets. We have a journey that we have introduced to you last year, and today we have evolved our model to manage performance that can give us the agility within the organization. The performance management has to do with behaviors and targets. We also started a project to increase diversity and inclusion, which will allow us to have diverse thinking to further make our culture innovative. When we talk about performing, we have to focus on our leaders so that they can promote our culture and execute the strategy. We have also started to run MVPs of models in the shopping malls with the learnings that we have from digital products, tech malls, and adjacent areas. We are also focusing on having ways of working that sustain our agility. We are also working, and since last year we have been doing so, we brought in-house all of our tech team. When we speak about transforming, we have to think about attracting and engaging our talents, thinking about what we need today, but also in the future. We need greater diversity in the company. That is also reflected in the leadership. We also have to plan the succession for key roles and promote a mindset that is adaptive, agile, always focusing on the construction of value for the clients. And with this, we will be able to achieve our objectives. In terms of our journey, we have 5 components which will allow us to accelerate our adaptation. We need to have a clearer vision and an ambition for the future, an operating system that allows us to run at the speed needed. We also have to execute with a clear management that empowers teams and allow cooperation. We need an agile culture that permeates all the organization, and we also need enablers, technologies, and tools. We need to have an excellent team, and we have to develop this team through learning models that focus on the protagonism and on the needs of each associate. And for that, we have an online platform that provides access to content, to relevant content. We need also collaborative communication, where our associates are part of the communication. We have a workplace tool so that our associates can become actors in communicating. We also have incentives which are more aligned with our culture so that we can foster new behaviors. And also, we also analyze the competitiveness of the compensation of the team so that we can attract the right people. This is what I had to say, and I'll now turn the floor over to Claudia. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bianca. Good morning to all. I'm Claudia Lacerda. I'm legal counsel, and I'm also responsible for governance, risk, and compliance. It's a pleasure to be today with you, talking about such an important topic. I'm going to talk about ESG, which is one of the pillars of our strategy. I'll start by talking about corporate governance. We focus on important principles, which are transparency, equity, accountability, and social responsibility. We have a culture of integrity in our assets. We have an effective area of compliance, an ethics code, an independent channel for whistleblowing, and a supplier code of conduct. We belong to Novo Mercado, and we adhere to the Brazilian Code of Corporate Governance. ISS has given us the lowest reputational risk. In terms of corporate governance, I would like to highlight some important points. Our board is formed by independent members, and the board has 3 advisory committees, one for audit and risk, one for people and compensation, and one for technology innovation. We also have an internal audit area which reports directly to the board. The risk management of the company is very effective. We have a policy, we have a risk matrix, and we also monitor risk continuously. And since 2019, we have a fiscal council in the company. Speaking of our social pillar, I would like to highlight our purpose. The shopping malls are a destination of happiness and opportunity. We focus on different projects that are carried out in our assets. I would like to highlight some of them. 2 of them relate to the pandemic. First, we ran a campaign called brMalls for the Good. We ran this with Gerando Falcões Association, and we raised 1.2 million reais, and we gave away 26,000 baskets of staple goods. We also carried out a program with the Amazonas Shopping during the height of the COVID crisis in Manaus. Our shopping mall donated 58 cylinders of oxygen to hospitals, and we also donated approximately 7 tons of food for vulnerable families. In terms of education, the Jardim Sul has a nice project which was carried out together with the Pescar Foundation. We trained dwellers in the community of Paraisópolis, and we mentored them. The results were very impressive. 84% of the participants have found jobs. And finally, I would like to mention 2 projects that have to do with protection. The first one was in Plaza Niterói and was geared to women. We had a center to serve vulnerable women. And also, we ran a campaign to fight femicide. And then North Shopping Acolhedor, in partnership with the Municipal Secretary of Social Assistance in São Paulo, where we took in street dwellers who would come to the mall to protect themselves from the cold. In terms of other actions, I would like to highlight some that have to do with our store owners and some that have to do with our associates. For the store owners, we ran two projects. One of them was Together for Retail. And this was ran during the pandemic. It was a moment when our store owners felt vulnerable, and we ran different projects for mentorship and also partnerships with institutions that could help and assist retailers. We had a partnership with the Interbank, and we managed to secure funding for our store owners. Then, the BR Mall Partners, which is a project together with Endeavor, and we worked with curatorship, and we selected some store owners who had a potential for development, innovation, and scalability. We chose store owners who had this profile, and we mentored them for 6 months. Our own executives made themselves available for that. The results are very impressive, and we see that many of the mentored store owners are now opening new stores. As regards our associates, in 2021, we had an engagement survey which had a very good score of 8.7. And in terms of gender diversity, we have, if we add up all of our associates, 47.7% of women and 45.8% of women in the executive positions. In terms of the environment, we have initiatives in our assets relating to the management of energy, emissions, and water. In terms of energy management, we managed to reduce the consumption of energy by 30% relative to 2019, and 80% of our energy comes now from incentivized sources, and 70% of our units have automated cold water centers. In terms of water management, the reduction was 34% in the consumption vis-à-vis 2019. 90% of the faucets of all of our shopping malls have flow reduction mechanisms, and 76% of the malls use alternative sources for the provision of water. We also managed to reduce emissions by 35% vis-à-vis 2019. We are also listed under the ICO2 Efficient Carbon Index, and we have 13 units that now offer recharge for electric cars. And just to conclude, I would like to say that brMalls looks for sustainability, preservation, and the generation of value to the shareholders. We will be increasingly focusing on that. We had important initiatives in 2021 and more to come in 2022. In 2021, we worked with our stakeholders to define our matrix of materiality, and we created a work group involving the leaders of the company. We also had a partnership with Gerando Falcões. For 2022, we will define an action plan based on the main topics of our matrix, and we will disclose our matrix of materiality and the GRI report. Thank you very much, and I will remain available should you have any questions. I now turn the floor over to Langoni. Thank you. Thank you very much, Claudia. Good morning to all. I'm Eduardo Langoni, CFO of brMalls. And today I'm going to talk about our most recent results and our capital allocation strategy. I will start with our performance. And as you can see, there was a consistent recovery for our business with an improvement in all operational and financial indicators. More recently, we announced the results of Q3, where you could see this improvement, especially within the quarter. There was a significant improvement from the first to the third month of the quarter. Today, I'm going to bring some months relating to the month of October, which further confirm the recovery trend. Our occupation rate in October was 97.7%, an extremely healthy level, and is the highest occupation rate in the sector. Sales have been growing also very consistently, and in October, they were above the same period in 2019, and the growth was by 3%. And finally, our occupation cost continues to drop and is now at 10.2% in October. This is a result of improved sales and of an efficient management of costs, especially costs relating to the condominium rates. This clear improvement in our indicators makes us even more confident about the year of 2022. Speaking a little bit of our capital structure, in 2021, we implemented different actions to strengthen our balance sheet. In September, we concluded the renegotiation of CCB at Bradesco, and we were able to not only lengthen the term, but also reduce the financial cost of this debt. In October, Fitch confirmed our AAA rating, which is a recognition of our financial health despite the relative volatility of the environment. As a consequence of these actions that we implemented throughout 2021 and of the greater generation of cash because of the recovery, we have been able also to reduce our financial leverage. In Q3, net debt over EBITDA on an annual basis was 2.1 times. We also have a very smooth schedule for our debt, with no major debt due in the short term. And last but not least, our cash position is very healthy at 1.6 billion reais. This improvement in our capital structure allows us to assess different alternatives in terms of strategy to allocate this capital, which, as you know, is extremely important for us. We spend a lot of time in the company assessing the potential use of our resources and funds. We believe that good capital allocation creates a lot of value in the short and long term. I would like to highlight our main priorities for 2022. We will continue to invest in our malls, to upgrade our assets, always looking to offer the best possible experience for our consumers and stores. We also have major projects towards expansion, especially in Tamboré and Tijuca. On the other hand, we will continue to invest in our digital solutions with a special focus on B2C through our relationship program, which is essential within our strategy. We believe that by knowing our consumers better, what their journey is like, we will be able to tap other opportunities and to create more options for our business. We will also continue to invest in media. We have been talking about that with you. We see a potential for growth, and with the acquisition of Hello, this has become even more of a priority for us in 2022. We intend to accelerate the plans to expand Hello and to put Hello assets in the residential buildings around our malls. Repurchase is also a priority for us. We believe that repurchasing shares creates value for our shareholders, especially now at the current levels where the price of our shares do not reflect the real value of the company. So repurchase is also a good way to allocate our capital. And finally, M&A, which is an important avenue for growing our business. I'll give you a little bit more color about that in the next slide. M&A has always been important in the company. We have a very good track record in terms of creating value through M&A. We made several deals that allowed us to gain scale, to create value, and to allow us to build a large portfolio with major assets so far. The prospect is very good. In the next few years, we have been monitoring the market and looking for opportunities that can create value within our strategy of assets which are important and that may bring us the financial returns that we deem appropriate for this kind of investment. In addition to M&A in shopping malls, we will continue to look for new opportunities, new revenue streams, as was the case with Hello, for example. Deals which allow us to bring innovation, technology, and new avenues of growth for the company. We believe that the development of these initiatives, be them digital solutions or our media business, they are very synergistic with the M&A of shopping malls, as this allows us to replicate new strategies and use these new levers in an even greater scale, thus creating more value in the whole ecosystem. I'll now turn the floor over to Rui, who will finish the presentation. Thank you very much, Langoni. We are now heading to the end of this presentation, and I just wanted to stress some of the main messages of this morning. First of all, this is a very important time for us after 2 years, which were full of challenges. But internally, the company is in a very, very good time. Our strategy is clear, our targets are clear, and then there are many uncertainties and challenges, but at the same time, the long-term fundamentals of our business remain the same. There is a very good audience, a very good public for the shopping malls. The store owners are very excited. The occupation rates are good. Cash generation, everything is going back to normal. So the prospects are good. And at the same time, we are evolving our value proposition. You saw how we evolved the B2C theme. You saw the new innovations which are strengthening our core business and how we have been able to monetize different assets. So this allows us to improve the core business and to create new opportunities. We are very excited about that. And looking to the future, growth will be extremely important for us. We see opportunity for organic growth, for monetization, for M&A, and all of this will be our focus in the next few years. And finally, that all won't be possible unless we evolve our culture, develop our people, and focus on ESG. These are enablers of our strategy, and we focus very strongly on them. Thank you very much for being here today with us, for your attention, and we will now start the Q&A session. Good morning. Welcome to our Investors Day, and we will now begin the Q&A session. If you should have a question, select Perguntas, questions, within our chat. The first question goes to Vicente, comes from Alex Ferraz from Itaú BBA. Vicente, could you talk a little bit more about Black Friday and what the performance of the sales is like in this quarter so far, and if there are any different observations you could make about different segments? Our performance had been improving since Q3, and this year what we saw is that once again we have to look at Black Friday and Christmas as a single season. So store owners had been able to preserve margin and preserve inventory. So Black Friday was not such a hit, but the prospect for Christmas is still very positive. In some segments we saw an increase in sales during the pandemic, especially the electrical sector. And there is a positive outlook for segments like apparel, footwear, and other segments which are typically for products which are given as gifts for Christmas. So the outlook is positive for Christmas. The next question goes to Langoni, and it comes from Gustavo from BTG Pactual. Can you comment a little bit more about our initiatives regarding M&A? In the past, we sold non-core assets to strengthen our portfolio, but do we think it's time now to buy assets in the market of those who were affected by the pandemic? Thank you for the question, Gustavo. As I said in my presentation, when we talk about capital allocation, and we highlighted the priorities for the next few years, we said we were going to continue to invest in our malls and in new media initiatives, in our relationship program. We talked about our repurchase program, which we announced this year and have been executing. From our point of view, repurchase is a good way to remunerate our shareholders. And we also talked about M&A. It has always been an important lever of growth and value creation for the company. More recently, we made some investments, and today we have a very strong portfolio that speaks very close to our strategy. So we see good opportunities for M&A in shopping malls and also for bringing in new opportunities or opportunities of growth, as was the case of Hello. We have a dedicated team for M&A, and they are looking at a very long pipeline of new opportunities. We will continue to assess the different opportunities, always looking at the financial return that these opportunities can give us. This combination between finding the right assets at the correct prices that are in line with our strategy is what we are going to pursue. So this is our view about M&A in the next few years. I'll ask Rui to take the next question. It came up twice, was made by Igor from XP and Mazzini from Citi. Why was the delivery center divested, and what is brMalls' position relating to digital initiatives? Are we going to do it in-house? Are we going to look for a strategic partner? The delivery center, I'll explain about it and then I'll talk about the digital strategy. Delivery center is a startup. They are tweaking their business model, but what we saw is that the job to be done was to first connect store owners in terms of inventory to different marketplaces and then sort out the last mile. So during the pandemic, the competition grew very strongly. There were different platforms, new solutions. The market changed very much in the last 18 to 24 months. And given the objectives of delivery center, we would have to put in a lot of capital and it would take much longer than we had planned for. So we had many discussions, considered different scenarios, but we thought that in terms of capital allocation and financial discipline, there was a limit for our willingness to invest. And that's what's happened. We were one of the shareholders, but then at a certain point, it didn't make much sense for us. So delivery center is now being discontinued. For last mile, we are now working with other suppliers, and we are also looking for other partners for connecting us to third-party marketplaces. As you saw this morning, this shows a greater maturity for us in terms of where we are going to allocate our capital and where we are going to focus our efforts. We have been thinking a lot about loyalty. Leo showed the GMV, 30% this year, and also monetization via digital media, which also requires investment, effort, and mobilization. So on the one hand, we are looking for alternative solutions which are lighter for omni-channel, and on the other hand, we are focusing a lot more on loyalty, granular data, and digital media. Thank you, Rui. I'd like to call Vicente to answer about media. There is a question by Pedro Lobato from Bradesco, which is the following. The expectation of growth of media revenues, should it happen in an organic way, or should we expect more acquisitions in the segment? Media, as you know, has been growing substantially in the last few years, and it's an important driver of growth for the company. As we increase in terms of scale through media malls, for third-party shopping malls, and now with the acquisition of Hello, we have been able to get larger advertisers, larger agencies, which were beyond our reach before. We expect to grow in key accounts, large agencies, and large advertisers. We have been strengthening the relationship with them in the last few months, and now that we have been able to scale up, we have been able to capture more revenue from advertisers. We're not thinking about M&A now. It might happen. We always look at opportunities, but we are considering that there will be organic growth, especially focusing on key accounts. Thank you, Vicente. There is another question for you about retrofitting and CapEx investment. Could you update us in relation to retrofit and the CapEx for the next cycles? We continue to invest in our assets. The retrofittings that we announced some years ago, they are in their final phase. In the next few quarters, we should complete all the retrofitting projects that we had for the main assets of the company. So we are heading towards the final phase for those assets. And we will continue to invest in retrofitting, in upgrading our assets in an organic manner. I would say that the retrofitting cycle with large investments is reaching the end. There will be some ad hoc investment in assets that will be finished in the next few quarters. Give us some color also about multi-use projects. What is the timeline and increase in revenue from these projects? In the last few years, we have been getting ready for the time that we are living now. So the process for us to unlock the value from multi-use is a long process. It requires us to overcome different obstacles, bureaucracy, and so on. And now we are able to unlock those projects. You talked about Catuaí, you saw a video, and this will happen also in other malls. We have been engaged in negotiations that will allow us to unlock that value, either by selling the land or by doing a financial swap, or even by having property for lease. It depends on the product we are going to create. We have been talking to partners, and this will be done through partners. We will be thinking about ownership, property, and the sale of our share in property. In the next few quarters, we should have news about it, not only for Catuaí, but for other malls as well. This is an important avenue of growth for revenue and also for creating more value for our main asset, which is always the mall. Thank you very much. Next question goes to Langoni. Comes from Fanny from Santander. And it has to do with M&A. She wants to know, where are the opportunities for M&A? Is this more individual assets, portfolios? The shares are not at the right price. What is your view about that? Thank you, Fanny, for your question. As I said, M&A was and will continue to be an important lever for growth and value creation. We have been monitoring different opportunities, and we look into them. During the pandemic, the gap between the price of listed assets and non-listed assets has widened, and this is a challenge. As I said, when we analyze a deal, we always look at the financial return. This is key for us. So the challenge is to look for these assets, whether they're part of a larger group or individual assets. We will always look for assets with the right characteristics. Assets that can become prevalent in the market. Once we find the assets, the commercial terms, the prices that give us the appropriate returns, we will try to bring these assets to our portfolio. Thank you, Langoni. And now, another question from Fanny. She asks you about the mall strategy. We have seen players such as Multiplan deciding to not invest in those fronts. What is brMalls' position regarding the shopping mall strategy? I think we differ from other players. We have a relationship program which brings consumers to the relevant digital platform. But we also have a new sales channel, which is in shopping. It's different from a marketplace. As I said in the presentation, I don't believe the world needs another marketplace. But the shopping malls, because of the loyalty of consumers and the loyalty programs, the mall can sell to the consumers around it those things that they cannot sell in the mall. So this provides a level of service to the consumers and also reduces waste. Yeah, the mall can deliver purchases close to consumers and to consumers nearby. The mall can deliver fast with no waste, and the consumer can buy through the mall because this is the consumer's preference relating because of the relationship. It's very different from another marketplace. This is the mall serving consumers through the mall and through its stores. It's an ecosystem. This strengthens our relationship with the consumers, and consumers see the benefit in buying through the mall. Our strategy is based on this, on the relationship, and obviously increasing sales in the mall. And with this, we end our Q&A session, and I would like to invite Rui to formally close this morning. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you for your trust. Juliana, thank you very much. Juliana is representing our IR team. And we thank you, investors, for your trust. These were 2 very difficult years, but the company is now stronger. We have overcome the difficulties, and as you could see this morning, the outlook is very good. We have it clear how we are going to perform in the short term and how we are going to transform to face the challenges in the long term. Thank you very much.